And welcome to Bias Bash. I'm Lauren Green. In the center square today is Jim Pinkerton. He's a contributing editor and writer for the American Conservative magazine and a Fox News contributor. Hey, Jim, what's on your mind today?
Well, Lauren, the topic today, for me at least, is what I've called in the past here at Bias Bash donkey washing, and that is eliminating references to Democrats when they do something bad. I've mentioned many times that the mainstream media have a habit of not mentioning that a Democrat convicted of a crime, Ray Nagin of New Orleans, any number of Democratic corruption cases in the last few years, they never seem to mention that the fellow is a Democrat. Now, by contrast, when a Republican gets in trouble, to wit, Bob McDonnell, the former governor of Virginia, who was convicted earlier this week on corruption charges, last night on NBC News, they mentioned twice, both Brian Williams and Kelly O'Donnell both went out of their way to say Republican Bob McDonnell. So that's one gap right there. But it goes further, as Curtis Hoke pointed out on the Newsbusters website. And Newsbusters, of course, is a unit within the Media Research Center, and they have its 50 new website, which everybody should look up at newsbusters.org, pointed out that the mainstream media, that is the three broadcast networks, and their nightly news, and also their morning newscast this morning, Friday, have neglected to mention that President Obama has fallen below 40% in approval ratings in the polls, and they've just completely ignored that. And both the Reuters poll and also now a Gallup poll. This is a big deal for midterm elections, and yet the mainstream media just don't seem to have time to mention, even though, as Curtis points out, NBC News has time for an important segment about a dog dressed as a spider in Poland who was scaring passersby as a prank. That they think that's important and worth covering, and of course, but they don't seem to have time for news about the President of the United States.
I mean, do you think this is a kind of a conspiracy, or do you just think it's a problem with just not wanting to pay attention to any kind of fault with the Democratic Party?
Well, I think that, as Curtis points out at Newsbusters, they were luxuriating in coverage of George W. Bush's approval rating, which also fell below 40 and stayed there for a long time. And every time that news came out, the mainstream media say, hey, Bush is at 36 or 32 or whatever. They love that. So again, I think that don't take my word for it. People can go to the Newsbusters website themselves and make their own judgment. It's pretty clear that when there's bad news about Republicans, whether it's George W. Bush then or Bob McDonnell now, it's not news for the media. And when it's good news for Democrats, they find time for it, or they just simply change the subject completely and go on to dogs dressed as spiders.
Very interesting. All right. To hear more media analysis on this topic and others, catch Media Buzz with Howard Kurtz Sundays at 11 a.m. Eastern and again at 5 p.m. Eastern on the Fox News Channel.